Kia ora, and welcome to Elevate Her Game, a podcast where we sit down with inspiring women who are doing incredible things, diving deeper into their stories, their journeys, and what drives them. You're joined by journos Hannah Fick and Michaela Lemon.
Today we talk to Jordan Oppert, sports reporter at TVNZ. Jordan talks to us about what it's been like for her as a female sports reporter and lets us in on how she ended up with a fake nose. Well, thanks, Jordan, for coming in today. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to come chat to us. So thanks so much. So to start us off, give us kind of an elevator pitch. Tell us, who is Jordan Oppert?
Jordan she is 29 years old. She's going into the last year of her 20s, which is very exciting. She's about to get married, which is also very exciting. She's a mum to a golden retriever called Warnie. So there we go. You can tell I probably love my cricket. So I've got Warnie at home. I'm originally from Patamohoi, which is south of Auckland. Actually, fun fact, before Auckland was a super city, it was actually part of Waikato. So I've kind of lived between the two. And I moved here for broadcasting school probably 10 years ago, and went back to Auckland briefly for like a couple of months of an internship before I switched and came back down, and I've been here ever since. So I've kind of spent now a third of my life in Christchurch. So I don't know, am I able to call myself a bit of a Cantabrian? I'm not sure. But but yeah, that's really me.
Was broadcasting always in your future, and always sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I actually always wanted to do this job. I didn't know in what form, because obviously, like, I grew up in a small town where we had a paper and that was it. And so I never really it wasn't a dream to be a broadcast journalist, if that makes sense, but to be a journalist in some form was definitely like always on the cards. And it was quite interesting because I went to Pukekohe High School, which is a huge school, where no one had ever really done anything like this. And so, you know, like as you get through high school and your teachers start asking you to tell them, they want you to want to know what you want to do so they can help facilitate that. I remember telling like my teachers, I really want to be a broadcast journalist and work on the news, and they were all like, it was kind of, they were like trying to temper my expectations a wee bit. And I actually we had homeroom when I was in high school, which is like the first 15 minutes of the day with people of all years under one teacher. And I had a really awesome teacher called Mr. Lefebvre. And like at the parent-teacher interviews, I think in year 12 maybe, Mum had kind of expressed a little bit of concern that I'd put a lot of my eggs in one basket because they knew I was wanting to apply for the broadcasting school. And Mum was like, I just don't know, because what happens if that doesn't work out? And she's put everything into trying to do this one job. I was terrible at maths, terrible at science, terrible at anything else but English. So I was like, this is not going to bode well for me. And then he just kind of said, well, why can't she? And I think that was probably the turning point, not only for my parents, my family and my friends, but for me as well. Like, oh God, there's someone that backs me to actually do this. And so, yeah, then it kind of transformed from there, and then fortunately got into B school. When I was here, probably leaned closer towards sport for sure. But as it kind of panned out, I've now done both. So, and on reflection, if I could tell myself back then, who wanted to be a sports journalist, if I could tell myself back then just do news first, I would do that in a heartbeat. So I'm grateful for the way it's worked out in a roundabout way. But yeah.
Like going into like sports, they're typically like male dominated. How did you find going into that sort of area and being like a female sports reporter?
Yeah, I mean, it is intimidating, and it still is now. I mean, on Monday just been, Scott Robertson named his team for the Northern Tour, and you've got, 10 or 12 journalists, and one of them is a female. But here in Christchurch, I feel really fortunate. Like, I'm so well supported. Leslie Murdoch, I'm not sure if you guys, she's an absolute legend, and she is she has been so supportive of me down here from day dot. And I think she quite likes having another female around. But I think I'm also fortunate where it's been modelled really well in our newsroom. Like, the majority of the sports journalists in our department at TVNZ are all females. Like, the males are the minority there. Yeah. We love them, but the gals are owning it. Our sports editor, Abby Wilson, like another female, which is really impressive to have like a female leading in that space. And when I was thinking of getting into B school, I was doing work experience with Kimberly Downs, who arguably is one of the great, she is one of the best sports journalists going around. No longer works for us, unfortunately, but, so I've always I guess because I had role models that were females, it wasn't as daunting to then come and do it. But for sure, like there are still moments where I go, oh my gosh, and doubt how well I know something because of that. Because when it comes to rugby, like I reckon that's probably one of my strengths is that I don't know the intricacies super, super well, but from a broader perspective, like what I can tell viewers, everyone's going to be able to digest. Whereas there are rugby reporters there asking about, I don't know, set plays and set piece and all these crazy things and wanting the intricacies of that. Whereas I just take the sport for what it is and hopefully viewers can digest that in a way that helps them as well.
What's your most memorable moment covering sports so far?
Oh, I've had so many. When I saw this question sent through, I was like, oh, I'm really lucky. Look, probably for me, I've been fortunate now to go to a Winter Olympics and a Summer Olympics. Olympics. And I would say the Winter Olympics definitely for me is still one of the career highlights because it was during COVID, so no one was travelling at all. It was in China, which was wild to be there during COVID, just full stop. And I was one of 2 journos from New Zealand there covering it and ended up being the most successful games we've had. Like Zoe and Nico both got New Zealand's first gold medals, which was crazy. Like Nico, when he won, it was minus 22 degrees and wind chill, and me and Ollie Ritchie from TV3 just refused to go inside because we're like, we have to see this. We've come all this way. So that was incredible, I think, covering that campaign. And I got to do the Paralympics after that too, and that was really successful. And that was a really special event, I think, to cover as well because it was Adam Hall and Corey Peters who were 2 of our greatest Paralympians, and I think for both of them it gave them the courage to go again. So they're going to Milan next year, so that was really cool. And then obviously Paris last year was like a dream come true. I'd never been to that part of the world before because after I left B school I've just worked. Like I haven't had the OE like a lot of your friends would have or anything like that. And it was just incredible, covering so many different sports. We're lucky in Christchurch, like Hamish Kerr, Tom Walsh. We have so many athletes in Christchurch that I cover and have for the last 8 years. And so to see them achieve on the biggest stage in the world was like very, very cool. And I covered the cycling, which was like my big thing, which was cool. So seeing Elise Andrews smash it was epic. The rowing was also really special for me because I got to cover Lucy Spalls and Brooke Donoghue, well now Brooke Francis, the 2 mums that won gold in the double. And I used to row with Brooke at school. So that was like a full circle moment. Yeah. I was like watching her like, oh, that's what I could have been if I tried harder. No, but it was that was amazing. Like there's so many to name, but equally like there's stories you do every day that can sometimes reach that kind of level. Like it was only a couple of weeks ago, there's a team called Try Rugby in Christchurch. Not sure if you guys have heard of them, but they're New Zealand's first fully disabled rugby team. And I've covered them from the beginning. So 5 years ago, they had like 6 players running around. And then like 2 years ago, I went back and they got the call up to do the halftime game for the Crusaders. And it was like a dream come true for them. And then this year, I covered them because they had their first test against the Wallabies. So an Australian team like them. Like those kind of stories like really stick with you as well. So I think as much as these pinnacle events are amazing, you definitely have like everyday pinch me moments for for certain stories for sure.
Yeah. Do you have like any other goals of stories you'd love to cover, like big sporting events? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Without making my boss like force her hand, I would love to go to the Commonwealth Games. Yeah. I think to be able to tick them all off, I think, because you have World Cups and stuff along the way, but I feel like personally for me, like a Rugby World Cup would be amazing, but we cover the All Blacks in New Zealand anyway, so we have there's just nothing quite like the global pinnacle events that encompass like so many teams from around the world. So a Commonwealth Games would be cool. It's in Glasgow next year, so we'll wait and see. Cool. I mean, if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, that's fine too.
Yeah. Do you ever see yourself moving out of like sport news and going into general at any time?
Well, I've done it the opposite way round. Yeah. So long story short, I did my internship at Sky Sport, and about 4 months in, Phil O'Sullivan, who's our head of news at TVNZ, called and was like, look, there's a job going on the breakfast show in Christchurch. Would you like to finish your internship there and come and do that? So I was like, yep, sweet, moved back, did that. And then Ali Pugh was having a baby, so I was on her maternity cover, like as a secondment to the 6 o'clock news. And a week later, the mosque shootings happened. And so the plan before that was probably for me to go back to breakfast, but because that had happened, it was kind of a decision was made that I'd just stay there. And so I ended up staying in news for like a couple of years. So I've kind of done it the other way around. Never say never to going back, but I definitely prefer sport, I think. You have to be, news really tests you because there's a lot of things, like I think of my colleague Lisa Davies. She's an incredible journalist, but she's covered a lot of harrowing things in her time. And I do believe over time that takes a toll. Whereas generally sport is pretty upbeat, pretty positive. I think it suits me. It suits my personality. It's what I enjoy. So I think for now, I don't see myself moving. But hey, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You've talked about likes of Kimberly Downs. Was there any other like women, especially in the sports media, that you looked up to like during your time at B School or before?
Yeah, I mean, so I was introduced to Kimberly through a family friend, and that's how I got to go and do experience with her, which I loved. And it's cool because now like she's one of my really good friends. So it's funny how life works like that. Abby was probably always another one because she was in the newsroom. So when I'd gone with Kim, Abby was always there, and she is an absolute kick-ass journalist and now a sports editor. And then as it's kind of evolved, like I really respect, like Leslie Murdoch will always be someone that I really look up to, and same with Suze McFadden. I'm not sure if you got, like what she's doing with women's sport in particular, with Locker Room and the likes online. I think it's a really special space. So probably those ones. And then I've kind of been really fortunate here in Christchurch. It's a really established newsroom. So I've like come up through like Joy Reid, Ellie Pugh, Lisa Davies, Donna Marie Lever, like a really group, like those women are incredible at their jobs, and I feel really grateful like I've been able to learn off them, and they're still in the newsroom around us now. So I guess I'm lucky I have lots of females around me.
It's pretty lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever faced any challenges or pushbacks simply for just being a woman in sport, and how have you overcome any of those moments?
No, I wouldn't say I have. I think probably it's more the pressure you put on yourself than anyone else, to be honest. I've had a really pleasant experience, but I'm well aware that I've come in a generation where that's been made possible by amazing people like we've just named who have made that the case. But I definitely think like I sometimes put a lot of pressure on myself for sure. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just have to back what you know, and I feel really well supported. I can talk things out if I ever have to with like my bosses or colleagues and stuff. So yeah, I'd say it's the pressure you put on yourself that's the biggest challenge.
You say you covered things such as like March 15. How do you separate, if you have to, even if it's in sport, like having to separate work from home and having like a work-life balance?
Look, the work-life balance is always a work in progress. I can tell you that much. I actually was telling my partner last night, you're gonna ask this question. He was like, what are you gonna answer? I was like, good point. It is hard, and sport is hard in particular because if I'm not at work covering it, I'm at home probably watching it anyway. Yeah. And so sometimes I do feel like, like I'll be watching during the World Cup recently with the Black Ferns. If I wasn't working and was watching one of their games, I'd be like, oh, that's a good shot. Or like, oh, I need to talk about this moment or whatever. So you kind of take the, like, sometimes it can be, take the enjoyment out of it. But if you love what you do, it shouldn't be an issue. The news stuff is harder. Like March 15, obviously horrific day in our history, and I don't know how I would have managed it had I not have moved to sport, actually, because the opportunity to move to sport came at a time where I was kind of thinking, gosh, I need to do something about this, because I was 20 at the time of the mosque attacks. So yeah, I was young, and to go through it in any capacity I think would have been a challenge, but especially when we were that close to it. So yeah, I think everyone finds their own ways of like dealing with that balance and making sure, I guess, prioritising your days off and really trying to power down. That's my thing at the moment, because I work a lot of weekends because that's when sport typically happens, which means you have like a Thursday, Friday or a Monday, Tuesday off, and I'm trying really hard at the moment, like switch off for those 2 days. But yeah, if you love it, it's not so much of a chore.
What kind of things do you do on your days off to like sort of rewind and reset yourself for when you go back to work?
Yeah, so I live in North Canterbury, so I always make it so I have one day at home and one day out doing things. So one day I'm like purposely at home, the other day I'll like catch up with a friend or go for a walk. I always hang out with Warnie, my little golden retriever, so I'm always with him. Yeah, just like things to switch off, like massages every so often. I love going to Bamboo Spa in Christchurch. I'm not sure if you've been there. If you haven't, you must. You just find little things. So, you try and make it that one day is like out doing fun things and then one day is just at home just chilling. And I'm like a real bookworm. I'm onto my 99th book of the year.
Wow.
So, read my Kindle. Yeah, switch off.
What's your favourite book that you'd recommend?
All for this year?
Yes.
Oh, there's been a few goodies. My phone's over there. I was going to get my Goodreads account out for you.
I love Goodreads.
I've actually just read, which I put off for a long time because I thought it was like a TikTok cliche book, but the Binding 13 series.
I've heard about
Chloe
this.
Walsh. There's Binding 13, Keeping 13. Very cheesy. Prob's a little bit raunchy, but hey, it's what everyone's reading at the moment.
Yeah,
so I can say it's actually good. Yeah.
Take that recommendation.
Yeah, jot it down.
Definitely.
I've completely thrown you now.
Do you see things changing in the industry in terms of like gender representation in sport, just in general or in your field as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as I said earlier, like at TVNZ, I genuinely believe we are leading the way in that space in terms of female representation in the newsroom. We're led by a senior sports editor, Abby. She's a female. We've got myself, Michelle Prendeville, Kate Wells, Bonnie Jansen. I'm sure I'm missing someone that was really silly to start naming, but we have a really solid team of female journos. And there are more, I think, across the board. And we're lucky that you've got, as I say, we mentioned earlier, people like Suze, Leslie, that are still leading the way in that space. So I think, for sure. It also helps, I believe, that there's a lot of former female sports journos that have now gone into high-powered roles. Well, not high-powered as such, but like solid media jobs, like Michelle Pickles, who used to be on TV3 for years, an amazing journalist. She's now at High Performance Sport New Zealand as their media comms, things like that. And I think that really does help as well. Questions like that are always hard for me because, like, as I say, I've never known any different. So I'm lucky, but I'm aware that is still a work on in so many other areas.
How about the like representation of, say, women's rugby and that kind of thing in the media? Are you wanting to see more of that? Are you focusing more on those stories as opposed to your typical men's sort of sports?
Yeah, and I think now that a lot of female sports are going professional, if you think of rugby, you think of cricket, that has elevated their game as well. So yes, you do end up covering it a lot more. I would say we do our best to keep the coverage pretty split, and it's not it's no longer a conscious effort either. It's just naturally what's happening, which is really cool to see. And like I'm fortunate down here because there's not something happening every single day, whereas like Auckland's a real hub and so is Wellington. So there's always media opportunities happening that they have to cover each day. Whereas down here, it's not so much like that. Like, yes, we do get busy when things are in town, like the Black Caps are here at the moment. So that's keeping us busy, for example. But the days that it's not, we can go and find stories. And quite often those tend to be with females and things. So, I feel like TVNZ does a good job of covering both. And it's, as I say, it's nice that it's no longer a conscious effort we have to make. It's just naturally happening because these teams have the resources in place and do have the media opportunities available too.
What legacy do you hope to leave in sports journalism and the media?
This is such a deep question.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like I'm very much at the start still of like my career, but I would say that I would want to know that I've made a difference in some way. And I know that's a real cliche, but you have a job, like when you're on the news, you have a platform that few are able to have, right? And I think it's important to use that wisely and smartly. And there's a lot of, like try rugby, for example. Like I cannot tell you how special it is to know the difference that we have made there. And like, it's so heartwarming to see. But equally, it's the plight of people. Like I covered Sammy Maxwell last year. She's a mountain biker who's just won the overall cross-country title. Yeah, and she had to fight to get to the Olympics because of an issue that was happening within her organisation. And collectively, I wasn't the only journalist covering it, but there was a few of us. And I do believe it makes a difference. And I would get the other thing I would say, so making a difference is the first one. The second thing I would say is that I would want to, if someone said that they'd had a dealing with me, I'd want to know that I left a good impact. Because for me, relationships are so key. And I think early on, perhaps I was so worried about that I almost was a bit of a shell. But now as I've come through and been in the job long enough, I know that I can ask the tough questions of these people and they now respect me for that. But there's a respectful way of doing it. And I think that's the main thing for me, is making people feel like I really listened, I heard them, and that I had a positive impact, and they enjoyed their working relationships with me. I think that's probably the key thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to, say, the likes of Hannah and I starting out in our media broadcasting careers that you would have wanted to know when you were starting out?
I just think it would be to be open-minded. We can all have in our heads we want to do a certain thing, like, I want to be a sports journalist, I want to be a news reporter, but actually take whatever opportunity comes to you. I do not regret for a second. I took the first internship available to me, which was Sky. It didn't work out, right? I got there and it wasn't quite for me, but I do not regret doing it, because actually now, like when I work on the Black Clash and work on the cricket, the same people that run the OBs and those stations, I worked with at Sky. So like, you have those connections. And so I would say just take every opportunity. Be a real yes person. Even if it makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, just do it. If you go somewhere and it's not what you think it is, just keep going until something else will pop up, you know? Just be really open-minded. And I think it's a strength to have done news and sport. If you look at the correspondence, for example, at TVNZ, it's seen as a huge strength if you've got that broader knowledge. So I don't think there's any harm in doing both. It doesn't mean one has to be for you and not the other, but just give it all a go. What is it that you girls want to do?
We're actually both going to News Talk ZB next
Oh,
year.
exciting.
Yeah.
In Christchurch? Or?
I'm in Christchurch.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've got an Auckland internship, and mine's half sport, half general news.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'll get a bit of that variety, which will be so nice.
Yeah, perfect. And I would say that radio, if I could go back, I probably would have started there for sure, because I think like Bonnie Jansen's recently joined us, and just the way that you'll talk to Oppert there, it's so fast paced, you're turning things around all the time, a broad range of stuff, really good teams. Like the Christchurch team will be awesome.
They're lovely there.
So, yeah. Oh well, sounds you're off to a good start anyway.
Yeah. Do you see yourself ever going into the space of like radio?
I don't know. Like, yeah. To be honest, I haven't really thought about it. Never say never, because you just don't know. But I'm really happy in my current job. I feel more comfortable in it as the years go on. I feel like I've really found my feet. And it's taken a while, because you know how we were talking about earlier, like there's more happening in Auckland, and there's also way more journalists, right? So between me and Michelle Prendeville and Dunedin, we cover the entire South Island, and like just the relationships you build over those years, because you're the sole person for people to go to. I don't really want to give that up anytime soon.
How do you build those connections and relationships with people and then continue them on?
Yeah, I think it's just in your dealings with them, right? Like I feel like now, I'll use Razor as an example. I covered Razor for years at the Crusaders before he moved into the All Blacks environment. And so that's every week, a couple of times a week at least, going in there, seeing him. It's always like, hey, how are you? Nice chats, do the interviews and stuff. So you start building a rapport over that time, and they get to know you really well when you're consistently showing up, right? But now it's got to a point he's in the All Blacks. And there are times we have to ask some hard questions. We had to do that at the Crusaders as well. But because they know you, they know what you're like, they understand and respect your job, you can ask both sides. And I think that's the key to a good relationship now, is like, we can have a laugh about it afterwards. Like, he knows, oh, yeah, okay, they got me, or whatever. But, you know, I think that's probably key. And just fostering, you know, checking in with people too. Like, I don't always do stories with people, but every so often I'll give them a call, like, hey, I'm just checking if there's anything happening at the moment, or how you know, like anything coming up in the foreseeable. And you just keep those like relationships ticking along, and it kind of goes both ways. And dare I say it, like those little contact meetings and little catch-ups, I know they encourage you to do them here at B School, but they actually go a hell of a long way, especially because like sometimes there's been so many times I've gone and seen people and never got a story about it. It's all just off the record context, but it's helped me like uncover a story or something, and that's really key. You've got to build trust, and that only happens if you really put the time in.
Do you ever get like scared to ask the hard questions when you've got such a good relationship with people? Like if something comes up and you have to ask a hard question, are you worried that might affect, or if you bring out a story that maybe shed someone in a bit of a bad light, are you okay about that?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately in sport, again, it's not often negative, and I've not had too many experiences where that's been the case. But I mean, for sure, the Sammy Maxwell stuff was very stressful. I mean, I was getting documents from her lawyers at like 5:45, going live at 6.
Wow.
So it was like trying to digest this information with TVNZ's lawyers too and work out what you can and can't say.
Yep.
That sort of stuff's quite stressful. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, it is always a tricky balance. But again, I just try and be really fair, I think, and I give people a heads up where you can. Yeah, and not all journalists do that either. Some just run with it. But I think I've always tried to stay true to myself and give people a fair heads up if I am going to be doing something. But yeah, it can still be uncomfortable. I definitely find that at times, but you've got to ask the questions, and you'd look silly if you didn't, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And then to finish off our episodes, we ask our guests 10 quick-fire questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
The first one's the trickiest. If you could have dinner with one woman, dead or alive, who would it be?
It's a good question.
Everyone struggled with it.
I reckon actually at the moment, I'd quite like to sit down with Alona Ma. I reckon she's just so cool. And I love what she does for women's sport. I mean, I'd probably say Kiwi athlete, but I'm so fortunate that I've actually dealt with so many of them before. So someone that I just don't know but is doing wonders for the game. I think, not just even the game, just sport in general.
100%.
I think she's such a powerhouse. And I love how she's so like unapologetically herself. She is everything that the typical sports person is not, but that's what she is, trying to advocate for, and I just love it. She
so
goes
cool.
against every norm. Yeah,
She'd be so scary to face on the field.
I know, absolutely not.
Terrifying.
No, I don't think there's actually a single rugby player I'd want to face in this day and age. But yeah, she would be cool.
Yeah.
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 I love what she's doing on social media and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, eh?
And like the pulling power she has. She was in New Zealand for before the World Cup, Pac 4 or one of those.
Something like that, yeah.
I should know that. I should really know that, but that's fine. And they had a waterfront, like on the Auckland waterfront, they had a media op with her and Portia Woodman-Wycliffe, and the turnout was insane. So it's cool that people even in our part of the world know who she is.
Yeah.
You never know. One day you might be.
I know.
If you could switch careers for a day, what would you do?
2 things: either be a lawyer.
Wow.
Or a cop. Just for the day.
Just for the day, yeah.
I actually, so when I was doing news, I went to court quite a few times. Not myself, obviously, to cover court cases. I wasn't in court, don't worry. And I found it so fascinating. Really fascinating. So yeah, probably that.
If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh. Back yourself.
What's something you do to prepare before you go live to air?
Oh, very situation dependent again. If it's in the newsroom, I panic because they're all watching me. I find them the hardest. I'm like, everyone do something or leave. They're the hardest. If you're at like a rugby game or like a sports event going live, I mean, I always make sure I have a notepad. I actually am someone who never looks at it, but I have it written there because it's just like a comfort thing if something were to go wrong. So probably read through that a few times. If you've got talent, do a little practice with them. But I mean, I'm someone who tries and keeps it very lighthearted because I think if I thought about it too much, I'd probably panic.
Yeah, fair enough. What's something people would be surprised to know about you?
Oh. I've got a fake nose.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, got knocked out playing netball when I was 16 in a school tournament and woke up and had a new nose.
Oh my
So that was very exciting. Yeah.
How did that happen?
I'm not quite sure. But I was playing netball. It was like a sports exchange. I'm not sure if you guys had those. And I must have just been like, I think the girl swung around with her elbow and knocked me out. And was getting taken through a school. People going, she got beaten up. And I was like, no, I did not. Maybe it looked like it. So, yeah.
So they gave you, like...
So the bridge of my nose is now plastic. Like, the complete top of it, because it shattered the, bone at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sometimes interesting because, don't feel my nose run.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's definitely something I don't think a lot of people would know. Awesome.
Random.
Yes. How do you celebrate your wins?
Oh, that's a good question. Celebrate your wins. Very quietly, actually. With my family usually, because they're the people that kind of get it and understand you the most. That's probably how I spend it.
Who's the most powerful woman that you know in your life?
Powerful. That's a big word, eh?
It is.
Honestly, like probably my mum. She is like a superwoman. She's actually in Christchurch at the moment, which is really nice. But yeah, she like is everything I hope I can be one day. Like she's had to go through a lot. Like we lost my dad a couple of years ago, who she'd been with since she was like 14.
Wow.
Yeah. And so life has changed dramatically for her, and she's just like in the face of adversity, she's such a powerhouse, and like she's resilient, she's strong, she's brave, she's supportive, she's loyal. She's like my best friend. So yeah, probably mum, I would say.
Nice. And finally, what's the one thing that you're most proud of in your career?
Ooh. I was nominated for Sports Journalist of the Year. Was it last year or the year before? At the Voyagers. And I would say for me that was definitely my proudest moment, because that year was like the toughest year of my life. As I just alluded to, I lost my dad, and my family are in Auckland, I'm here. And there were so many times throughout the year where I thought maybe I should be back there. It was really torn between two cities, but I was going home lots and I talked to him every day and stuff like that. But I think throughout that year I felt like I was just like trying to keep up, and I felt like my work was just really struggling because I was just not in it as much as I should be. And then I think to be like not rewarded but recognised that actually some of my best work was done when I was like in such a dark space, was so like special to me. I think I felt like I'd won just by being nominated. And I was really, really proud of that, because it was a super tough year, and I just think to be able to still produce like quality work that's been recognised at that level amongst like incredible nominees. Like Michael Burgess and Mike White were the other two nominated. And again, like I was the only female, which I felt really proud about. So yeah, I think for sure it was that. Like I don't even care that I didn't win, genuinely. It was still just so cool to be named. And also that my colleagues were so supportive. Like the group chat was popping off, and like everyone was so excited for me, which was really, really special. So that would be.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is a big achievement.
Yeah.
Well done.
Very cool. Add to CV.
Yeah.
Not that I've got another job, but you know.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of the very busy news schedule.
Oh, bless. No problems. It's so cool what you guys are doing. No one ever did this when I was here, so it's very fun.